Guys, ChatGPT is becoming the most important source of leads. It is becoming the most important customer acquisition source on the internet. But you don't just have to take my word for it. Look at the users. There's over 700 million active users on ChatGPT. When you talk to people at parties, they're referring to it as chat or GPT or ChatGPT. It's becoming ubiquitous. I mean, you can start to see it in your personal use too. When you're actually using ChatGPT to solve problems, it's going to be referencing websites, blogs, articles, so that you can go and get more information. If your business is not being recommended when people ask specific questions, you're losing. You're leaving money on the table. Think about this. If you could go back in time and be one of the first businesses to be on Facebook or on Instagram, can you imagine the amount of reach that's available? Tremendous. But these companies, these businesses, these acquisition sources go through life cycles. And today we're going to talk about the life cycle and where ChatGPT is at. We're going to talk about some of the pros and cons, and we're also going to talk about how you can actually leverage the opportunity as it is now. I mean, this is the same stuff that I'm working on with my clients. And I'm just going to kind of share where I'm at, where I'm thinking about, and some of the experts' opinions as well. So buckle up. This is the channel where we're talking about how to stay relevant, respected, and financially free during the AI revolution. If that's interesting to you, now's the time to hit subscribe, like the video, and leave me a mean comment or a nice comment, whatever you prefer. Okay, so I mean, guys, I've been known that ChatGPT is important. I use it daily. Basically, everyone I know uses it daily. There's hundreds of millions of users. And I've created GPTs. We're doing a lot of really cool stuff for some of the companies I work with. But one of the things that really said to me I need to record this video is I was listening to a podcast of, it's called Lenny's Podcast, and he had on Brian Balfour, who is the former VP of Growth at HubSpot. And he really highlighted the importance and kind of broke this down. And I was just going to kind of briefly summarize it. I'll post a link to the entire podcast there. It's about 2 hours long, but I wanted to summarize it down to what I think the key points are for us as business owners, as men, as people who are trying to stay relevant. But there's a few things that are really interesting about ChatGPT, okay? Because one of the things I think we can agree on is that AI is the future. And if you go back to the social media age, to the World Wide Web, it became ubiquitous that everybody knew that these were going to be big, okay, at a certain point. But there were some huge winners, there were some huge losers. Like if you planted your flag on MySpace, that's kind of a missed opportunity, right? And at the time, you had all these companies that were really jockeying to be the dominant force in this particular tech. And right now, when it comes to AI, you're seeing the same thing happen again. ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, Llama, there's all these different AI platforms that are really jockeying for dominance. Now, it's Brian's estimation and his hypothesis that ChatGPT is going to be the big winner. There could be others. I kind of think that there are going to be winners in certain aspects. So as an example, Google Gemini VO3, or Genie is called now, could just become like the industry standard for video, right? ChatGPT could be the industry standard for LLM chatbot. Like there could be different types of AI platforms, but regardless, we're talking here today about client acquisition within ChatGPT. And here's why Brian, former VP of Growth at HubSpot, which is a huge company that I have a lot of experience with, I'm using it daily with multiple clients. Here's why he thinks ChatGPT is the winner. 700 million users, rapid user growth. There's a very high retention. There's also emerging third-party integrations, which again, make it a powerful tool for client acquisition, okay? And he kind of stipulates that when SaaS companies are going through this, they go through a smile growth chart where they start hot, they kind of drop off, and then they start to pick back up again. And that's what he's seeing with ChatGPT. You've seen this in the past. And what he also acknowledges and recognizes, and I'm going to try to just succinctly explain this, is that there's 4 steps to distribution, and you want to get in on a software platform early. The earlier you can get in, the better. Because if you wait too long, there becomes some problems with the distribution. So there's four cycles. There's a 4-step cycle. The first is that you must identify the moat. And with ChatGPT, there's the moat of memory. Because all the AI platforms at this point, all the LLMs are pretty similar. They're going to give you a pretty similar result. Where you get the difference is when the AI is able to remember and contextualize. It has a context about who you are, what you want, and is able to give you answers that are customized based on its memories of you. That's the moat of ChatGPT. That's why I like using ChatGPT, because it remembers more about me, it knows more about me, I've programmed it with more context. If I use Grok also. If I jump on Grok, I'm going to get a very, very different response. It's not quite as good because it doesn't understand me quite as well as ChatGPT does. Okay, so there's the moat. That is the moat, I think, when you see these AI platforms, is context, is memory. In ChatGPT at this point, it's done a really good job of that. In fact, there are 4 main places where you can optimize your memory within ChatGPT. I'm going to put a link. I covered this at length in another video. I think it's really important. But optimizing your memory in ChatGPT is important to getting the most value out of it. I'll put a link to that video up here. So ChatGPT has this moat, okay? The second step of the 4-step cycle of distribution is to open gates to attract developers. And guys, this is where ChatGPT is now. It's opening connectors to HubSpot, GitHub, Box. They're making it essentially free for the government to work. You can create your own GPTs. You can get free API access in certain situations. Okay, so what they're doing is they're making it very appealing. They're opening it up. Hey, work with us. One of my favorite podcasts, the All In podcast, at the very beginning of the podcast, during the intro kind of hook in the music, there's a place where David Sachs says, and we just opened it up to the fans and they went crazy with it. That's where ChatGPT is now. That's where OpenAI is now. They're trying to open it up. They want people to build. They're making it very easy, very appealing to build onto the platform. And what's going to happen in what we're going to see next is going to be stage 3 of this cycle, is that because of all the development, all the users, it's going to see exponential growth via all of these ecosystem contributions. The more you build on your business with ChatGPT, the more integrated it is, the more ubiquitous it becomes. It's gonna enter this stage where it's kind of like it becomes almost a clear winner. And then once this happens, it moves into stage 4, which is closing for monetization by restricting access, maybe absorbing features. Maybe there's apps that they say, we're just gonna do this better than the others, or they might impose taxes. There's examples of this too. Apple, in the Apple App Store, if you put an app on the App Store, there's a 30% tax on that, which is pretty brutal. Meta, you're not getting reach as a business page unless you're running ads. Google, at first, really incentivized SEO. You could get tons of traffic from SEO, and then they turn on PPC. So you got to run ads for traffic now. So we've seen this change historically over time, and it's important to get in at the open stages. But there are some downsides to that, guys. There are some downsides. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, thanks for liking and leaving a comment. Because if you're a business owner, if you're trying to really evolve in this new world, I really want to help you. Thanks for liking. Thanks for signing up for my newsletter, AIupdate.ai. Okay? Regardless. So there are some cons to getting wrapped up in these systems like this. And by the way, if you keep hanging on, sorry to keep cutting myself off. Keep hanging on. I'm actually going to give you some practical ways that you can leverage the tool. If you're bought in, cool. But I just want to explain some of the pros and cons here. And I want to explain exactly how you can execute on these ideas. I'm going to give you a step-by-step model. Okay, so the cons can be over-reliance, and this is marketing 101. You don't want all of your leads, you don't want the vast majority of your leads coming in from one source, because if that spigot gets cut off, your cash flow is cut off. Okay, it's also dangerous because if someone like ChatGPT says, hey, if you want us to recommend your links on our website, you have to pay to play, all of a sudden your customer acquisition cost can skyrocket. So there are some downsides there. But here's the problem though, if you don't pay to play, if you don't start getting in there now, your competitors are. So you end up seeming like you're not with it, you're not in the right places, your competitors are going to be there. So you kind of have to be there in order to compete. You also have the problem of sharing data. When you're integrating AI tools into your business, into your systems, you are going to be sharing data. So there's some potential concerns there. Okay. You also have the concern of wasting resources. What if ChatGPT ends up going bankrupt or ends up getting all of their top talent poached, or if ChatGPT 6 is as bad as the ChatGPT 5 launch? Well, you could have wasted resources. Anytime you're using a new tech and investing your time and resources into a new lead source, it may not work out well. That said, I think I've made the point why ChatGPT is most likely not going anywhere. And the real benefit here, guys, is first mover advantage. When you get in during that second stage, which is where ChatGPT is now, you have a massive, massive opportunity advantage. So how do we capitalize? How do you might say, Mark, this sounds good. I want to get leads from ChatGPT. How do I do that? I'm going to give you a few steps that you can take. Okay, so the most obvious, the most simple, the thing you should be doing right now is building custom GPTs or agents for very niche problems. So, I'm working with one of my bigger clients I'm working with now is doing, he has software and education for Amazon sellers, helps them sell more on Amazon. So we can operate by, we're creating GPTs to help increase your Amazon sales using PPC. How to validate products using, how to find winning products on Amazon GPT. We're creating these various GPTs. We're peppering in links and resources that can drive traffic back to our company. We're using a context moat for personalized pitches. So what you can do is you can integrate ChatGPT and integrate OpenAI into your CRMs like HubSpot, okay? And then you can leverage OpenAI and ChatGPT to go through all of your data, look at your customer information, and create personalized dynamic pitches. This is something that I'm starting to look at in more depth and clarity. Haven't really dove into this too much for various reasons, but this is something that we can also do. You can also, again, capture leads with seamless signups, right? And we kind of talked about this in the first step. You're creating GPTs, which includes calendars, forms, offers, directly embedded into the chat flow. And this is another, I think, really important piece of the puzzle that most business owners get wrong is attribution in tracking, right? You need to actually track the metrics. If a lead comes in from a UTM source of ChatGPT, well, what happens next? What does that customer journey look like? Are they converting into sales? Are they converting into meetings? Are they converting into customers? Are they reading your emails? Like, what is that customer journey look like? And being able to measure and attribute actions throughout the entire marketing and sales flow is really critical. And I mean, this doesn't happen to apply just to ChatGPT, although I think it's an important thing to realize in ChatGPT. One of the things you're going to note is anytime, by the way, guys, anytime you click on a link in ChatGPT, it'll pop up a new web page that has a weird little thing at the end of it, which is a UTM tracking code source equals ChatGPT. So the UTM tracking is already built into this, guys. You just need to leverage that when you're doing your tracking, your metrics. The bottom line here, guys, is you definitely want to be creating GPTs specific for your niche, specific for your business. Highlight pain points that your audience has. Highlight a pain point that your ideal audience would have. Like, I'm here in Tampa, Florida, so you might create blogs, you might create a GPT on how to do if you're a roofer, how to do roof repairs on roofs in Tampa, Florida. Because one of the things, again, that ChatGPT knows is it knows so much about its users. It has memory. So if I'm living in Tampa and I type in, I have a roof leak, how do I repair it? Guess who has a chance of showing up? It's either you or it's your competitors, guys. So having these GPTs set up, having these models built up, building into and onto and with systems like ChatGPT, this is the time to do it because the opportunities are tremendous. Build out your GPTs, make them public, make them shareable, embed the GPTs on your website, get people using them. Maybe you even sell it. Maybe it even has a cost associated with it. Maybe it's a lead magnet. So, hey, you want to learn how to generate better leads with ChatGPT? Sign up for this form and you'll get access to my custom GPT. just in this example. I'm not sharing all this stuff at this point. It's all mine. I'm hoarding it all right now. I'm a little bit greedy with it. But these are just some ideas on how you can get it going. But at the very least, you should definitely be considering GPTs to attract new users at top of funnel. And then as you get more integrated with ChatGPT, you're going to find that, wow, I'm actually starting to get some leads from ChatGPT. I'm seeing the metrics. I'm seeing them tracked on my forms. I'm seeing tracked via UTM tracking code on my calendars. All this stuff starts to snowball, and the early adopters are going to be the winners. I just think this is very fascinating. I think it's a very exciting time to be alive, especially if you're in marketing. I know a lot of marketers are scared right now, but I just think that we're kind of in this untapped world where, quite frankly, most marketers don't know what they're doing, A, and B, we have so many new opportunities to reach new people in interesting and innovative ways. So that to me is exciting. At the end of the day, though, that's not what matters to you. What matters to you is, how is this going to increase my bottom line? And if you did one thing today, this week, it's create a couple public GPTs, put them out there, share them, get people using them, and see how that impacts the existing lead flow that you have. And by the way, if something doesn't work right off the bat, that's pretty normal. It might take 30, 60, 90 days to start seeing the momentum. But I don't think that the ChatGPT lead opportunity should be dismissed, okay? Listen, appreciate you watching the video. If you like this video, I think you're really gonna like yesterday's video, although it's pretty terrifying. People are following ChatGPT to a T. And there's a lawsuit, I'll put a link to it here. There's a lawsuit against ChatGPT right now from some parents whose child offed himself. And it's a terrible, terrible story, but I think it's a good example, and it's a good thing for men to be thinking about specifically regarding how are we interacting with these bots, how are kids interacting with their bots, because the reality is, guys, and this I think enforces the point of today's video, is that people are really listening to these bots. And if your bot is telling you to do stuff that's good, that's awesome. If the bot is telling people to do stuff that's bad, that's horrifying. Check out yesterday's video. I'll see you there. Thanks for subscribing. See you later. Peace.